Hello, friends. Those Back Pages here. I hope you're well. Tonight's episode, entitled My Approach, going to talk a little bit about how I go about collecting. I had someone recently reach out to me via email saying, I'm interested in collecting. I won't say the player's name. How do you decipher between picking up the 10, the 9, the 8, etc.? And I thought that was an amazing question. And then I thought about it some more. And with the current events going on in the hobby, with prices being probably at an all-time high, especially on the lower level, if you like to rip wax and such, I wanted to stress the importance of looking back at what we already have. As collectors, we're always going to continue to march forward and, hey, what's next? As they say, it's all about the hunt. So it's easy to get caught up in I don't have this, I don't have that, because that's on the forefront of our minds for the most part. And again, I'm only speaking for myself. I'm stating these opinions. These are not facts. These, again, are only my opinions. So, as I've been collecting slabs for 16 years now, regularly, and I appreciate that I'm always learning. And again, there's nothing wrong with not liking slabs. I know a few people that absolutely hate them. We do not see eye to eye in any facet of the grading situation, community, however you process, however you want to describe it. We do not see eye to eye. One fella in particular, we never will see eye to eye on this particular issue, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree, and we can enjoy collecting. They happen to collect something that I have absolutely no interest in. I'm not even talking about sports or non-sports. They happen to be a huge autograph fan, and I can take it or leave it. People, criticize, oh, you spent, X amount of dollars on this particular slab when you could have just bought it raw. Well, I could counterpoint, say, well, you're paying this much amount of money, which is usually significantly more for, we won't even get into the whole sticker situation, but ink on a card, or ink and material on a card. Again, that's neither here nor there. So as it's become more difficult to continue to collect because of the current situation of everything, and I wanted to say that I was thinking about this just today, that in the last 50 years, back to 1971, 51 years, 1970, there is no player that I can think of from the regular sports, not talking about oddball items and all that other stuff, rare stuff, but there is not a player that you cannot collect from their playing days even. And never mind, there's just so much stuff now that Topps pumps out in the last decade of retired players. But there is no player that I can think of. You have to go back to the 60s, where if you say, I want to collect Mantle playing day cards, that could get pricey. But even that, in low grade, you'll be fine. But From the 70s onward, there's no player that those cards are just too expensive. Now, I'm not talking about rookie cards, of course, high-end rookie cards, even some low-end rookie cards. Like a Jordan rookie in any grade, you're looking at a comma card, 4-figure card in any grade. That's different. But, a 91 Upper Deck Jordan is running you $1. It's a Jordan Playing Days card. The 92 Upper Deck Jordan happens to be an amazing looking card, another $1. I mean, again, it might not be the card you want or the condition you want, but you can collect that player. So I hear a lot of people saying it's too expensive. That's relative, like everything else. You can march forward and collect. If it brings you joy, you're doing it right. So, this past week or so, about a week, I decided I'm going to try to get more involved in Twitter hobby, Twitter collecting community. Not just cards, but everything. Share everything. A bunch of us have started a daily hashtag, collectible a day. Collectible a day. So, meaning collectible a day. So, if you're on Twitter, go look up that hashtag. A couple of us have been sharing. Try to share at least an item a day. Share a picture of it. Talk a little bit about it, maybe. Show it off. Be proud. Because a lot of Twitter is turning into a buy-sell trade thing, which is fine. But, we can show cards that we own and we're proud to own. They're not necessarily for sale. That type of deal. So, as I said, it's becoming harder and harder to collect. But let's go over my process a little bit. I've got some slabs to show you, so it's not just a whole talking video. We'll start with baseball because most of you love baseball, and that's fine. I love baseball too. At this time, I have extreme satisfaction with my baseball collection. Are there more cards I'd like to get? Always. That's not a newsflash to anybody. But for the most part, my post-war collection I'm very satisfied with. My pre-war, I need a lot of work. But speaking of pre-war, here's a card I've owned for a long time, and I've shown it before. I think I've shown all these before. I've shown all these before, except I got a couple new pickups at the end that I want to talk about. But here it is. It's the T206 Christy Mathewson. Let's see if I can get that in there. Some of you are always worried about the assigned grade, so it's a 1. Actually, I've got some tape on a couple of these I should probably remove. The reason I put tape on it, I like to put blue tape on the flip, is because so you guys can focus on the card. Then you get a lot of people that say, well, if you're not paying attention to the flip, just buy the card raw. Get it over with. Well, for a lot of these cards, I'm not comfortable paying the required funds to secure a raw copy for various reasons. Counterfeits. More so, the seller overstating their own cards. Combine that with horrible photography practices, and it's a bad recipe. But anyway, here is my Mathewson. As I mentioned, it's a PSA 1. Looks pretty good, rounded corners, which, upon issue were completely square. But again, it presents well. It's a little off-center. Could be centered better. But my main thing with collecting vintage, not just pre-war, but vintage in general, is let me see if so I don't put my horrible fingers in the picture. Where is that leather open? Here it is. When I was picking up vintage, when I was picking up cards like this, it was a lot more affordable 6, 7, 8 years ago than it is now. Oh, and that's another thing to keep in mind. A lot of us that have these quote-unquote great collections have been doing this for a long time. That's something to remember. Like I mentioned before, I'm 16 years into collecting slabs. But when I pick up this card, my main things, my two main things are centering, card centering, and then no facial creasing. Those are my two main things. No creases. Like if this card had a major crease this way, wouldn't care. Over here, would not care. This way, would not care. But if there was a crease going across his face, that would be a hard no for me. I would not own this card. Now again, if you said, well, what if it was $50? Well, of course, come on. All things being equal. Now, the reason you might be wondering why it's a 1, and you've not seen this card, if you're new here, I appreciate that. It has paper loss here and up here. Very faint paper loss, which actually doesn't even affect any of the writing on this particular card. Now, even if this back was completely like 85% ripped off, I wouldn't care. Because honestly speaking, very few people even look at the back, especially in an internet world. So you post this on social media, bam, there's my Matheson, oh, that looks great. You don't really show the back. So use that to your advantage. As I've liked to say, I've said many times, you play the game, the grading card game. You play it. You play it to your advantage. Not all grades are created equally. Here is another card. Here is my O-Pee-Chee Wayne Gretzky rookie. An extremely awesome PSA 1. It's accurately graded. I don't know if it'll... Like that corner is mushed in. That lower right hand corner is mushed in. There's a crease that goes all the way around here. A bend. Up here there's another bend. And again, it presents really well. And I've had this for 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even remember. But again, I paid $125 for this. And when I bought it and I posted it, I think I posted it on Collector's Universe. I was offered, I think, $200 on the spot at the time. This Gretzky's tough centering because you got to get the centering on the oil drop there. That's the key to look at the centering. So this is a really darn good example of centering on this card. Okay. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Here I wanted to show that a little bit. Let's finish baseball first. I want to cover this up because I'm telling a story. But I'm dropping everything like klutz. Sorry about that. Let's finish with the baseball. Okay. So when I first got back into into collecting graded cards, I was extremely focused. Well, maybe focused is the wrong word, but I was extremely interested in filling in holes and owning it just to say I have it. Which is why I tell people I'm not a fan of upgrading later. I'd rather take those funds and buy the card initially and then move on to something else. So I don't know if you're like me when you're collecting and you get something that you've been chasing, then you move on to something else and you don't pay attention to the current market values of what it is because you have one and now you want to chase something you don't. So one of the players that I focused on, I think I showed this in the when I showed off this player's collection that I own, that I had to have, one of the players I had to have when I got back into the collecting hardcore, I guess, was Hank Aaron. So here is the first 55 tops Hank Aaron that I ever owned. It is an SGC 30, which is a 2. If you're new to the slabs, SGC used to have their own weird numbering system there. That's one of the older flips. But again, this is I guess some would classify this as a beater. It's a second year Aaron. It's got, a heavy crease right here. Going down his face. This is not a card I would purchase today. Again, Eric, what if it was $20? Yeah, alright, then I'd buy it. But you know what I mean. It's got some dent bunting. I think the corners are pushed in. It's not well centered. It's decently centered, but the main issue I have is this line, this rub going all the way down the card right there. That's the card. It's not the case. You see snow on the hat. As you know, they used this profile picture of his on his 54, 55, and 56 card. Thanks, Tops. But, I don't even remember how much this was. I've had this for over a decade. I'm not saying it was dirt cheap, but it was probably was $20. So that I had in my collection for many years, and then as I was perusing Aaron cards, I came across this card, which I've shown before as well. Let's cover that assigned grade, because I think it really applies to this one. So, one day many moons ago, I was looking at eBay, and I came across this buy it now. This 55 Aaron with pretty much perfect portrait. Maybe that might be on the card. That's really tough to see it. It's actually showing up more on the camera than in person. But there's the front. That corner is not the sharpest. It's got a little bit of looks like a little bit of a notebook residue. Maybe it was glued into an album. On the 4 here in the by the stands, there's a little bit of residue right there. You can kind of see. But again, this presents really well. This is a perfect example of buying the card and not the assigned grade. This is you've seen it before, but some of you might not have. This is a PSA 2. This, when I saw Alex Bowman 53s earlier in January, I think it's still January when I released this, but he picked up a 54 Aaron that is a 2 and looks a lot better. That this is in the same camp. Now, to put it in perspective, when I bought this, the VCP, the vintage card pricing, was $65. That was the VCP for a PSA 2. Now, remind you, most 2s tend to look like this one, which is fine, and then you find one like this. Now, I do remember how much I paid for this. I paid $125 buy it now, when the current market value at the time was $65. Because look at it. I mean, that's why. You throw all that stuff out the window. That the previous sales and all that stuff is a suggestion. So you throw that out the window. When it's a card you want, you buy it. Oh, it's too much. Well, alright, if you can't afford it, that's different. But if it's a card you want, you buy it. There's no such thing as overpaying if it's a card you enjoy. So yeah, like really, quickly here, a couple other cards. Actually, let's go over that first, and then. Sorry for the run-on, but I feel like talking today. Was probably, again, we're looking at, for me, buying in 2013 and 2014 was a good time. I could not do today what I was doing then. Not financially for what stuff goes for today. But I had put out a buy ad on Collectors Universe saying, hey, I'm looking for a Bird Magic rookie in a PSA 7. I had been looking for one for a while. And, I want a centered copy. I don't care about the perforations. But overall, I'm looking for a centered copy without the black line. If you collect these, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, give me a second. I will show you. So I had someone reach out to me. Says I self-subbed one. I got it back. It's what you're looking. I think I was paying $175. I think I had to up my offer because I wasn't finding any that were appealing to me. It didn't meet my satisfaction. So I was offering $175, and I want to say that at the time. I think PSA 7s at the time were probably like $125, maybe $150. So I offered a little bit, like same premise as the Aaron I just showed you. I had a collector reach out to me, send me a message saying, hey, I subbed one myself. It's 7, looks a lot better. And I think he said I need $240 on it, or something like $250 or $240. He's like, I know it's more than you're looking to pay, but let me send you the photos, the pictures, scans, because we did scans back then. So he sent me the scans, and I looked at the scans, and I said, man, that's a good-looking card. And, here it is. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this to the show, and I'm going to have it reviewed. And I did, and lo and behold, it came back an 8. Which the guy said, he said, man, this is an 8 all day. I don't know why it got a 7, but, here's the price. You want to give me the $240 or $250, whatever it was, and it's yours. So I said, yeah, I saw it. I said, yeah, let's do that deal. Now, a lot of these Magic Johnsons have a black, a black line on the bottom of this border here. I think it was due to the sheet placement and the sheet moving or whatnot. But remember, this card is from 1980. And Topps was just the year after this. Topps got out of the basketball card game for 11 years. They put out an 81 Topps basketball set, and then they didn't put out another basketball set until 1992. So they gave up on hockey for 2 years, in 92, and 3, and 3-4, and then they jumped back in 84 for hockey. But they didn't jump back in. I don't remember why, or they couldn't, but until 92. But so quality production wasn't a thing. They didn't care. So this is just a fantastic. The perforations are a little off center, but left to right is good, top to bottom's good, no black line. Of course, you've got Julius in the middle. This is just a fantastic card. It has taken off this past year, like everything else. And that's an essential card. I would, if I were in the market for like a card that's quote unquote still underappreciated, that's one of them. So is the Gretzky. We're talking about GOATs here. Gretzky, Bird Magic, Michael. It's pretty basic to see. let's go over this quick. I know the video is running long. Some of you tell me I don't talk enough. Some say you talk too much. Whatever it is, right? While we're discussing, my approach, I think it's important to get that out there on live on video. Anyway, I've never seen that at that angle. That's interesting. There are certain cards, someone says to me, Eric, I want to collect this particular rookie from this particular sport. For me, there are like ideal cards to aim for. Brands, I guess. There are some brands that are better than others. There are some brands that are a lot more expensive than others. But for me, I guess it's kind of like saying like a meat and potatoes type of thing. If you have this particular player, you have this rookie card, nowadays it's these rookie cards because, I think Mariano is going to be the last Hall of Famer that ever has one rookie card. So, short of like, no, even that's true, but never mind. But you have, player X, player A, and then you own rookie cards X, Y, and Z. For me, they're various. For baseball, it's Flagship, Heritage, and Topps Chrome. Those are the three. If I have those three rookie cards of a guy, that player, or whatever, I'm satisfied. Will I venture off to the other brands? Of course, if I can. But again, this is a lifetime thing of collecting, and you're not going to have everything. So be satisfied with what you have, and aim for that stuff. So for football, it's a little different because it's changed with just Panini in the game. But, when it was free market, free range, it was Topps Flagship, Topps Chrome, and Score. Or actually, being honest, it was Topps Flagship, Score, and like probably Pro Set. That's a good question. And Upper Deck for sure. And again, I guess you can kind of fit it into the player because some players aren't in Flagship. Like Tom Brady was not in Flagship for some reason. He was a 6th round pick, but so I substituted Bowman paper. So I'm proud to have this in my collection. I've only had it, I think, a year and a half or so. I went back and got that. And I got his Score. This is definitely one because Score has come out every year since 1989. Panini keeps that going. So I definitely recommend Score. It's cheap, but this one's not particularly cheap anymore. I think this one ran me about $75 back in, probably, we're talking about a year and a half ago. Before, back's not very interesting. But, you have this, you have the Bowman paper, you have the Upper Deck. Star Rookie is started with Griffey. LeBron's got an Upper Deck. I mean, just pretty much everybody from 89 to 09 has an Upper Deck rookie. I mean, that's just, I current market values of Upper Deck base versus Flagship base for the same sport. It's mind-boggling, the price difference on that. That's just something to keep in mind. I'll probably elaborate on that another time. So, when Topps folded, they folded up shop in 15. They lost the license for NFL cards, and Panini took over. And I would say that, for a player like Mahomes, we won't even get into the 16 and 17 Prism football. There is no non-shiny version of this. So don't be fooled. Someone's calling it a silver, charging the extra. There's no non-silver. So for a player like from post Topps era, it would be Prism, Donruss, and Score for sure. Because Score, like I said, is still going. You could throw Optic in there. Optic is pretty much a chrome version of Donruss. But I mean, the prices on this stuff, and again, look at that etching. Jeez, I will never forgive Topps for getting rid of etching. They simply got rid of etching to save money on printing. Prove me wrong. So yeah, that's my little, my approach as far as rookie cards go. I'm always glad to talk about rookie cards publicly, privately. My canned answer when I'm talking to people I'm new to, new friends, new acquaintances, and they say, "Hey Eric, what do you collect?" I say, "Graded rookie cards." That's my canned answer for if I'm cutting it down to one particular thing. I love graded rookie cards. That's something that's not going to change. Now, another time, because again, I appreciate you for still listening. Even I'm saying this video is running on way too long. Another time, I want to go over the crossover game, because that game is much different than, again, theme of the night 5-6 years ago. Because 5-6 years ago, you could take this Curry rookie, which is a BGS 9.5 with, it's called True Gem, so it has no subs lower than 9.5, and then you could turn it into a PSA 10, which is what I did with this one. So I took one like this for LeBron, took it to PSA, said, "Hey, I want to cross this over to a PSA 10, minimum grade PSA 10." And if it didn't, they just send it back. In this case, in the BGS case, for this particular card, I did not try, because there used to be limits. If a card was, I think it was over $499, you couldn't, the approach I was taking, you couldn't do it. And at the time I crossed this over, it was a $300 card, so it was not an issue to cross it over. This was, at the time was over $499. I was like, I don't want to pay the extra just to try. And here we are today. What this is crazy price. And well, this one's numbered on the back to $9.99. So these are tough to get to begin with. So yeah, there's that. That's another aspect of my approach. I guess that fits into the whole blanket of my approach. Lastly, my pickups recently have been few and fairly far between because of various things going on in my life, including what's going on in everyone's life, and the price getting crazy. But, people always say, well, you could buy raw. Well, you can, and I have been. These two particular, I've been trying to find shiny cards that are not costly, well, not expensive, and well, that's subjective. And I've always said you can never go wrong with Michael, LeBron, and Kobe. You just can't. There's just no, I don't care what card it is, you're not going to lose. But trying to find shiny versions of their cards that are not 3 figures is pretty damn impossible. And I'm about to show you guys 2 of them that that qualify, but not for long the way things are going. The first is an insert from 2013 Crusade, and that's the Crusade insert. And these are super shiny. They've got etching. Let's see if you can see heat on the jersey, lines on the basketball. Here you can see Kobe's jersey 24, Lakers, the piping on the pants, the Lakers logo over here. Super shiny. These have crept up a lot. I picked up a couple of these in the $20 area. I don't think they're that much anymore. And again, these two guys, you can't lose in my book on those two guys. The other one that's caught my eye that I've had trouble. Again, you pay what you want to pay. Everybody has a threshold. The other set that I've been focusing on for these two fellas, because Jordan's not in it, kind of like that one, and that's another point that Jordan hasn't had a MDA licensed basketball card since 2009. Keep that in mind, 12 years ago. But it's from the 2004 Fleer Showcase, which used to be Flair, but now it was called Fleer Showcase. And here is the LeBron James, second year card actually, by the way, 2004. So you've got a very youthful LeBron there, and then you've got a Kobe. Good smiling Kobe right there, super shiny. These are base cards. These are not inserts. These are base cards. And, they're not, they at the time of this recording, they were, a blaster and a half a blaster. But, I'm sure that's bound to change as, finding economically feasible shiny cards of these guys is extremely difficult. I am continuing to look for more of these, but as the prices creep up, I'm less likely to pick them up. But perfect example of this with this card is that when a friend of mine first told me about these, I saw a PSA 8 for like $50 bucks, $55, and I said to myself, if I can get this particular copy, I paid $17.50 for. So if I can get 2 or 3 of these, and is this an 8? Maybe. I mean, it's got some surface scratches. It's a fairly condition sensitive card. You can see there by his cheek. It does. I mean, it has if you're familiar with the 90s Flair brand, it's a thinner cardstock version of that. It's got the extreme shine like those do. It's not quite as good as those, but it's pretty good. But again, would I rather have 3 of these raw? I don't think there are any counterfeits of this. Not yet, anyway. But would I rather have 3 of these raw or 1 PSA 8? The answer is I would rather have 3 of these raw and put them in the Z Folio. That's just my personal opinion. And again, you approach this hobby however you want. That's what I do, and I'm proud to have 3 of these raw in my collection for the cost of 1 PSA 8, which is an 8. It's not a 9, it's not a 10, it's an 8. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you're approaching picking up cards for yourself. So I want to thank you for hanging in there for this extremely lengthy video. I want to say in closing that a YouTuber, non-hobby YouTuber that I've been recently enjoying greatly, always closes his videos out with saying, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. So I thank you, and remember to keep learning.